why don't we get started, and then we can let people join. I'm so excited to have somebody introducing. I thought I was doing myself. So.
No, that's what I'm here for. Come on now. So yes, I am here to introduce Deborah Kime. We'll kick it off now. Deborah has 20 plus years of experience developing, building, and leading international sales departments in the live sports and entertainment industry. She is recognized for her entrepreneurial and goal-oriented approach. Deborah currently works with venues to train, coach, motivate, build, and develop group sales and premium sales teams. Her emphasis is on creating unique products and services that elevate the guest experience, drive revenue, and meet or exceed goals. So without further ado, Deborah Kime.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zach. Okay. And so excited to be here back at EAMC. Even though it's virtual, we will get back in person one day. See lots of familiar faces. So first of all, this session is really going to be dialogue. It's very informal. I will have some touch points in the beginning as we go through. And then I want to open it up and really hear what people have been seeing as well. So I have a couple of questions as well as we start. So I want people to get active in the chat. Because really, the last 15 months, none of us could have ever predicted or prepared for a pandemic. I mean, really, nothing. We're organized people in events, but that is something that we really can't have prepared for. And it's been an exceptional time of change. People have really had to adapt, as have we in live events and sport. And group sales was a department that has been, really impacted first. So many in group sales, people were furloughed, they were let go. I've seen lots of people starting to come back. Some departments were fortunate enough to really remain intact during the whole. So first of all, one of the first questions, just start to put in the chat so I know who we're sort of talking with. What's your venue, name, city, and what is your title as well? Because I know in group sales often we have standalone group people, but we often have hybrid people as well. So start chatting, everyone. What's your title, your city, and your venue? Jill, I know you. How are you? Excellent, Portland. Perfect. Who else do we have? Kansas City. Perfect. We've got Baton Rouge. Awesome. Any other cities? Anybody want to list? Minneapolis, fabulous. So I see we've got a real mix of people as well. We've even got Stars on Ice. Hi, Christy. How are you? So give me an idea as well. Were you furloughed and you're sort of back, or are you new to a role in your department as well? Because that sort of helps to see kind of where people, some people, when you've left and you come back, things are very different. Awesome. So I see we've got maybe a mix. Yep, furloughed and back. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's amazing. So, okay, so what I wanted to do, because, big question, things have changed. And if you were furloughed and are back, or if you're in a new department, you have to pick up sort of the pieces. So we're gonna talk a little bit just about what is group sales. So I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a sec. So this is what we'll sort of cover. We'll talk for maybe 15 minutes, and then I really want to hear what people are hearing. What are they doing in their venues? What are their customers saying? What are the promoters saying as well? So what is group sales? We're going to talk about having a plan, how you achieve your plan, really about positioning group sales now, and then how to be successful as well. So group sales is really simple. It's about creating internal and external relationships that ultimately generate ticket sales. So we have our customers that come in the front door. Those are our groups, our patrons, our guests. But we also have our external customers, people coming in the back door, our promoters, people that bring us the shows and help us to get butts and seats that are just as important. Then we have all the other departments that are our internal customers. And by creating those really positive relationships, we are able to deliver, quality products and services. And one of the things about our industry that is really unique, I think, is that it's based on relationships and on historical knowledge. So in a lot of venues, what I'm seeing and hearing is that people, who have left, some people aren't back because they found other jobs, they have other roles. And so you lose that historical data and those relationships in cases. Awesome for those of you that have been furloughed or have never left because you've been able to maintain, or the people that need to be reached out to. And people work with us because they trust us, we operate with integrity, and we deliver the services and that we say we're going to. And really it's about creating unique opportunities to enhance the guest experience, and ultimately what our stakeholders are looking for is drive revenue as well. So before you start, you've got to evaluate your current department. What are your assets? The state of your CRM, contacts. What do you have? Collateral material. But you really have to create a plan. And so that's the very first thing you do before you pick up the phone. And you've got to define your objective. And is that tickets and revenue? Is that also a combination of how many new business accounts you want to, gain? Set a target of qualifying the database, because it's been inactive for a year, 15 months, and people have had, lost job loss. They have moved on. So there have been a lot of changes with the people that we deal with, and I'm sure we'll hear more from different people. I'd love to hear about that after as well. And then how do you create your objective? So you create, who are you going to reach out to? Do you have existing lists? Do you need to purchase new ones? Again, coming back to that qualifying of lists. And here's just a list of some basics, people you'll reach out to. You need to evaluate your CRM as well. And, Salesforce, Artix, what's in there? What needs to be qualified? What's the state of it? Working through social media, how are you going to use those platforms to market your group sales as well? So that's working with marketing. Can you create some talk and discussion about some of your assets or experience, using digital resources, finding contacts through LinkedIn, using Meetup, using all the Facebook. So being really creative and resourceful, but listing and documenting that plan, because you're going to want to come back to it, and you'll also be asked to report on it as well. And then how do you achieve that plan? Starting big, start within. I always like to, look at the biggest companies, the organizations, membership groups, and start there. Figure out referrals. Who in your existing database and client base can you use as referrals? Also use that from other staff members as well. Who knows people within companies, organizations? Use your personal network, because that is a great way to find new business and also establish new contacts. Networking, getting out and about. And I think networking may have changed as well. Maybe that is a lot of virtual. I'll be interested to see tonight's mixer, how that goes, because I think it provides new platforms. You don't have to travel. You can still meet with people and have dialogue as well. Focus groups are a really great way to get people back into the building. Maybe you're doing those virtually, asking for people's opinions and finding out what is important to them. What are their challenges? What's keeping them up at night? Because that really helps us to create the things that maybe will work for us in the future. Creating the venue tours. Create that sense of excitement, feeling exclusivity. Maybe you're doing those in person in the U.S. You guys are way ahead of us in Canada. We're still in lockdown here. So, can you do those virtually? Can you take video footage of your venue and utilize that to create that excitement? But there's nothing like getting people into the buildings, getting that sense of excitement there. Looking at ticketing initiatives. How are you going to use supergroups? Sadly, Group Mathematics did not make it through the pandemic. FIVO has created and developed some new products with theirs to really replicate some of those things. They've got a fundraising platform. So that is a great area you're going to, if you're not using it, is that a tool that you may use now? Food and beverage packages, helping to generate and drive sales. A lot of things will be all contactless, but can you and get those advanced sales as well, so that F&B know exactly what they've got coming in that case. Dinner packages, pre-parties. Capitalize on those unique experiences that really create the memories and fun. Human beings, we're pack animals. We live to be in a group, right? It's not normal for us or natural for us to be separated. And so for many, it's been really, really challenging to be at home for the last 15 months and be so isolated from others. So as we're working, with people, use that as well. And the last part of your plan, you need to create a timeline. Really map that out month by month, using time management to achieve this, right? So planning forward, blocking your time, putting it in your calendar, turn off those distractions. So get rid of any notifications on your phone, on your computers, because those are very distracting. Stay on task and start where you are. Use what you have and do what you can. You've got to be realistic about that. So when positioning group sales, and we can all come back, and if people have opinions, we'll ask them more questions about this as well. You've got to get to know the customer as well. So have empathy for their circumstances and really be authentic and genuine in your transactions and your contact with people. Get to know them personally and professionally. Do they have children? And document all of this in your CRM. And make sure that you're really getting to know this person. What do they need? What do they want? What motivates that particular person as well within that organization? Because when you really know your customers, when a product or service or an event comes up, this might be absolutely perfect for this particular person. Understand the size and scope. Is there another aspect of that company that could make a group outing bigger, or could also give you another contact? Is there a retired piece to that? If it's a union, or if it's city, often cities have they have the public sector workers, but they also may have union. So asking all of those questions as well. In churches, there are so many different ministries. If you've worked with churches, that by asking for one, you may be able to compound that and get into another. And what are the benefits of group sales? Many of them are still the same, right? It's an advanced purchase opportunity, it's group seating, and that comes back to us. People want to connect. They want to build community. They want to entertain. They want to network. So understanding what that is and really finding the emotion and creating that sense of excitement about being back at a live event and really creating that. It's so important. So really it is such a basic human need. And the guest experiences, creating maybe virtual tours. I know a number of shows are doing that. I think Globetrotters are doing virtual interactions with the players. Gymnastics has been doing that as well. So can you ask for maybe if they're not going to do anything in person, because there will still be restrictions and maybe access to talent or players or things along the way. So be creative, be really resourceful, and be sure to ask these questions about, well, maybe we can't do this, but what can we do as well? And then always doing those experiential packages we talked about, with beverage, dinner packages, pre-parties as well. So, and this, how to be successful, I come back to really starting where you are, evaluate the department, understand what your resources are, what you have, what you don't have, what you can access, maybe what you can't, maybe low cost, no cost assets that have perceived value, but maybe there really isn't a cost, and create the plan. Make sure you've got that plan. Use what you have, your lists, your current relationships, both those internal and external, networking, referrals. So much of our business comes from that, as opposed to the cold calling and literally hitting the phones. Reach out to the promoters, other teams, venues. Ask your peers. So here we have a whole group and network of people, reach out to everybody and find out, how you can support one another through this process. Be resourceful, my absolute number one, and don't ever take no for an answer the first time. Always, whether it's a promoter, present your argument, present your proposition. Be organized and manage your time. So make sure you're chunking your time blocking, and then do what you can and break it into manageable pieces, because it's kind of overwhelming, right? Having to look at this huge task in front of us of rebuilding a department. But communicate your efforts to your GM and boss, the promoters, the stakeholders. Be sure to open that communication, because when people don't hear from us and what we're doing, they make up their own stories, and that may not always be positive. So always communicate your positive efforts, because I know everybody's working hard. Build your foundation and grow from there, and really understand that it's going to take time. My last point before we get into dialogue and discussion, because I really want to hear what people are seeing and doing, is make sure that outside of work, do something that inspires you, motivates you, and that you have fun doing, whether that's exercise, whether it's, arts and crafts, whether it's yoga. Find those things to do it, because you need to have an outlet outside of work as well. So let's open it up for discussion. We've got a variety of buildings, I think, from small to large. What are people seeing with the shows that you're getting on maybe things that are different? Right? So maybe put in the chat, option to unmute yourself. I will just unshare so we can see everyone as well. Back. So what are people seeing? What are some of the shows that you're getting? And what are you seeing? Christy, what are you getting?
Well, we're getting a little bit of everything. Can you hear me? I hadn't been to you before. Okay, cool. So it's actually funny that you asked, because in the last week we've added 6 shows that all have group sales. The latest one plays off November 6th. So we're powering through. We're run through an athletics department, so we got the green light to go 100%, and we start in August. And so we'll come right out the gate with Globetrotters on August 5th, and I'm actually working. We go on sale in a couple weeks, and by the end of the month, I think. So it'll be a really quick turnaround compared to normal for them. Typically what we've done here, because usually when we get Globetrotters, it's like the first 5 days of January, and we close for 2 weeks at Christmas. So it was always really difficult for us. And so their HGI rep did all of the assets, and then I just did the traditional stuff. But now they don't have that anymore. So we've learned that I get to do everything. They have actually sent me their assets today, and it's significantly shorter than what they are normally doing. So it used to be like a 2-page document, and now it's just like a 1-sheeter with like 5 options, and the bulk of it is their birthday packages. But everyone's pretty open to it. I know we had a socially distanced Monster Jam, which it was our highest grossing Monster Jam ever. We had 5 shows. We had about 3,000 in the building. And that was the first time that I ever actually had to run to our parking garages and parking lots and tell them, don't let people park if they don't have a ticket, because we don't have tickets to sell them. It was crazy.
Wow.
Something I never thought I would do for a Feld show. And they were just like, you can try groups, but I don't really know how it's going to work. And it was actually fairly successful. We did have to do the pod seating, so that was difficult. Hopefully when we get Feld in 22, that with us being 100%, we'll be back to normal there. But they're ready.
And what are your group organizers? As you've been calling people, there's lots of changes. Some people transitioned out of the roles. Some people, how has that been?
A lot of my main people are still there. I haven't had much turnover, especially on the super group corporate front. They're all still pretty much the same. Some of my scout people were they've changed a little bit, but I think their kids have just aged out of it. But for the most part, what I'm hearing from them is they're ready, and I know some of our people ended up doing the premium front since they couldn't all get together. They'd rather pay more and kind of be in their own space. And they were like, we're just ready for our kids to be able to do something. So the demand is definitely there. It's just refining those contacts, making sure they're still there, that kind of thing.
Well, and I think that really ties into the fact that people, they want to be out. They want their children to have fun, to not be isolated, and to really be a part of the group. Who else is saying? What are other people saying? Thanks, Christy, so much for sharing.
Deborah, I'll speak. I need to give a shout out to Carrie and Susan. Hi, guys. We just got word that we have Globetrotters in August, and that is not our time frame for that. So I have no idea how that's going to go because, like Christy was saying, where is Christy located, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have no idea what to expect. They don't have their own group sales, which I guess is good for us in the long run, but I'm sure they'll get them back. But we have gymnastics, which I'm sure most people on this call have, and ours is October 31st. And when we went on sale in February, it was like no way, no how. Because DC, depending on where you are in the country, we were really not very uncertain. And now we're really starting to roll. I don't know, we're not going to be near what we normally do, but I think the comfort level is there. I think that event alone is just unique, and it's not comparable to some of these other events the perennial events. But kind of encouraged because for a while it was really looking like I felt like I also do caps, and season tickets were still selling great, but I felt like groups were still like not ready to talk about that yet. But I think it's coming around.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because group sales during the pandemic, now it's opening up. I think it's better, but a group was so just not so anti thought of a pandemic. It's like, oh my God, we're not getting together as a group. So group sales. You were lucky, Jill. Awesome news that you guys stayed intact because that was, one of the first departments that got cut, as well as I know those of you that were furloughed. Who else wants to share about maybe what you're hearing or any questions you've got? What's front of mind? What's keeping you up at night right now?
I've got a quick question. Jonathan Reisberg, Florida Panthers here. I'll just chime in. Yeah, we also just announced Oxygen today or yesterday, and we're going non-social distance, full capacity, but subject to change as always. But really, my focus and question is more on the sports front. So for the Panthers, fan experiences are so important and really help drive that extra revenue. But just given and speaking with my director, it's looking like we won't have fan experiences. As of now, due to we have the NHL bubble and limited access. What are you all, kind of seeing and hearing for fan experiences for next season?
Yeah,
what are you thinking about doing?
From pro sports buildings here as well. Anybody want to weigh in on that? I can see, they want to limit anything with players. They want to limit liability as well. As a venue, that's one of the big things they're looking at. It's risk management. Like, oh my God, let's not create opportunities where this could be a thing, right? Particularly amongst youngsters that aren't being vaccinated, right? And so, but I guess, how could you create a virtual experience? So can you go back and say, I'm just weighing in, okay, we can't do in person, or we're not willing to do, mites on ice, or we're not, willing to do any of our pre-games. What can we do? So can we do a player interaction, right? And maybe that's done in advance. So how can you tie those sorts of things in with some of the groups that you may have been working with? Who else has thoughts on that? Who wants to weigh in? Because that's a great challenge. It's not a great challenge, but it's something that people will be experiencing. Who else? Who wants to weigh in on that?
And just a quick follow-up on that even. So we've done some virtual talks with players for members and group leaders, and they were okay. But really, our management and just everyone is really focused on staying in person and getting people down here to the arena and really moving past the whole, virtual anything. So we are all about being in person. So really any in-person fan experiences for next season, what I'm really looking for, that are more creative that we may not know.
what are they telling you? Just so I understand, what were you doing before that they're saying you can't do now?
It's just we don't expect to have any access down the ice.
Okay.
You know, we're really looking. I mean, because like we used to be able to do photos on the ice, Zamboni rides. I mean, we're essentially preparing to have none of that. So it's thinking outside of the box there. One idea that we were thinking about doing is like a band in the stands. I know the Denver Nuggets did like a happy birthday for Rocky. Where they had choirs come out and sing happy birthday. So we're thinking about doing something like that. But any other ideas to get some larger groups out with like a fan experience? That's like the biggest kicker right now. I'm a performance guy, so that's we're trying to figure out.
Jill, what are some of the things that you guys do?
Honestly, we don't really do a lot on the ice because we have. Because every other night we have to deal with the changeover crew, and we don't deal with a lot of fan experience on the ice. And when I was more on the basketball side, I mean, I did a ton of fan experiences, so I kind of wish we did. But I think we get a lot of pushback from our building about, because usually that would be after the game or whatnot. But I was going to ask him, what are they saying for the whole year, or maybe like the second half of the season they'll open it up, or are you going to be full capacity? Because to me, why wouldn't you have a Zamboni ride? That's like one little person and their parent and their driver. I mean, I'm just kind of curious, but yeah, no, that's not a big driver for us. Sorry, no pun intended. For sales, because we haven't really offered it too much.
Okay. Anybody else doing any other? I like the band in the stands. I think that's a great idea. I mean, standard ones are anthems. Can you create a unique area where it's almost like a photo booth where you've got cutouts of players and things like that? Could you create something different, right, that you could do? Anybody else? Who's got ideas? No other ideas? Okay, well, maybe that's something at tonight's mixer we could, chat about and come up with some brainstorming ideas to see what we can do with that one. Who else has questions, or what else are you seeing with either your group organizers? What are the challenges that maybe you're facing right now? Kelly, go.
Sorry, I have really bad allergies. So I'm with a theater, so a lot smaller venue than probably most of you. Our Broadway house is 2,500 seats, but we are able to open at full capacity, so we're planning to open with Disney's Frozen in October. And one of the things we're seeing in our industry, in the theater industry, is that those talkbacks, those in-person events, we never really did tours because theaters are so small anyway. And that was sort of like an extra if you know someone through the situation. But our talkbacks are not going to be in person, definitely not. So we already know this, so we will be doing a lot of these virtual talkbacks. And as much as it feels maybe like initially it didn't feel as exciting, but the really good thing, at least for us, is that we're going to be doing these in advance, which will just get such a deeper buy-in for these shows, deeper understanding, deeper connection to a show, rather than, and it's happened to me before where I sit in on a talkback after seeing a show and I wish I had known about that moment in the show. Now I want to go see that thing that they just talked about, something funny that happens, or it's technically very difficult, but the audience doesn't always know, or something like that. So setting these up in advance, number one, it opens up more people than just cast. We like to utilize lighting and other, people in the crew. It's going to take a lot. It's going to open up more people, but it's going to take a lot more planning, and that's what's going to be really challenging. So that we may be working with shows, we may be in market in Boston, but they're going to take a step away for an hour and do a talkback with the student group in Minneapolis because the next jump is to Minneapolis. So it's just going to take a lot of coordinating, but we certainly know up front that it's out of the question to do in person. So we have to think that way. So now it's really on us to come up with really compelling programming. And the other good thing for us too is that this will help us actually sell tickets. In our world, typically talkbacks don't get confirmed until the very last minute, and you hope that it's going to come through, but it may not. And so you really can't use it as a selling point, where now we really can. If you hit that threshold or whatever it is, you know you're getting a talkback.
I personally think it's a great idea, and I think it's opened up a whole world that didn't exist before, right? Or to your point, it was unreliable and you couldn't really leverage because you didn't really know until the last minute. So I think that we will see, and I know people have Zoom fatigue. However, it is the reality and it is the new normal. I don't think it's going anywhere, and I think we need to accept that and leverage it and use it where possible. I appreciate the share. Yeah. Who else? Anybody else? What's keeping you up? What are your challenges right now, or what are your positive experiences? You've got to have some. I think Michael, you're on as well. You said you might have some ideas, so thank you for chiming in there. So the challenge was for the Florida Panthers is that they don't have ice access this season. So to do any of the fan experiences, so trying to come up with new ways to create those fan experiences. What are some of the new things? So go, Michael.
Just preparing for the work. That's essentially it.
No pressure. Well, what I will say is, and I think I mentioned this in a room earlier too, is that, yeah, Zoom fatigue is real for sure, but how many people jump off of 6 hours of Zoom and they're like, oh, I need a break from my computer. Let me just go on Instagram for a second and show up for 20 minutes. So people are not exhausted from all digital and online interactions. They're exhausted from the pressure of feeling like they're on camera. That's what I would say, or on stage or something like that. So I think a lot of that stuff can be done very successfully. If you can't get access to the ice, do you have access to the concourse and things like that, I'm assuming still, and to build out some stuff around it and parking lot and things like that?
Yeah, 100%.
And honestly, you could do things, I mean, shoot there's pop-up and non-frozen, artificial ice mini rinks and stuff like that too, that you could plop a logo on and bring it outside to a parking lot or something if you had to. So there's definitely ways to get creative with physical and on-site activations that I've seen. FanFest and all that stuff, I think, still plays without being on the ice.
Haley, what happened there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but I think everything's resolved now. Should be.
Okay,
Sorry
I
about
got thrown out, so I'm back. So, Michael, pick up where you left off.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So did everyone else hear that? I know it was really screeching, but I think what might have happened was if someone else had a double tab open, it might have joined that session also, and then you were having this duplicate thing. But so what I was saying was, yeah, there's really cool ways to activate digitally and with live activations, working around an ice space. You can easily do concourse, you can do parking lot, you can bring a mini ice rink, whether it's frozen or artificial, to keep that feel if that's a big part of your activation. Or, just being at your venue in general is the most exciting thing, right? So I know that there's a nostalgia with being on the ice itself, but there's definitely ways to replicate that enough to get fans really excited about being there. Anything you can do with player meet and greets and things like that. Something cool is that you can do AMAs or meet and greets virtually. That's way more intimate than just having 5 seconds in a line and feeling like you're actually talking to players. Some of that stuff actually plays better digitally than it does in person, where there's just a cattle call, pick out. So those are some of those ideas I promised. Hopefully that's a good place to get some folks started. Anyone thought about stuff like that?
I absolutely love the idea of if you hit your group minimum and then of 50 or 100, you get a guaranteed chalk talk after that's virtual only.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Incorporate. I mean, the business and the folks like that, they could be just excited to talk about the coaches and bring in some of that management aspect and concepts depending on the group, right? As the players. So you may have more availability to people that they're interested to talk to. Bring them in on an AMA or something.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
So Christy has a question. So Christy, how are you? About wondering if group sales are using any of the apps or initiatives to reduce the personal interaction on show day. So Carrie, you said you're doing 100% mobile. And that'll be a real transition, I think, for groups. Anybody else going mobile? Because I see it as the way of the future. I see Molly.
We're fully mobile in Sunrise.
Okay, awesome. Who else? I saw Molly nodding her head, saying yes. Yep, we're mobile. Okay, Kelly is as well. Yeah, thank you. And how is that working for your groups? And how did that transition for you go for them? I see a smirk on Kelly's face.
We're working on it now, and we surveyed group leaders and got mixed reviews. Most traditional groups were pretty on board with it, but got a lot of feedback from senior groups, not being really fearful of not being able to manage tickets. And I think half of it is just not realizing what that even means, that they can still manage tickets the same way, or still manage tickets and assign seats. So it's just going to be a huge education process.
Yeah, because I mean, most seniors, or many of them, have mobile phones, right? And it's really teaching them, how to use that as well. Who else has an experience about that? Just on going mobile.
I can add. So we had tried prior to the pandemic to start mobile, and we were kind of straddling that line where we were letting people choose if they wanted to do mobile. This forced us to be 100% mobile, and pleasantly surprised that it's gone very well. Now, of course, we haven't dabbled in the Disney on Ice where you sell thousands and thousands of tickets and have some of those larger groups that are probably going to push back, but so far, our gymnastics community has had no issues, which is the Gold Over America tour. And then we'll, find out for Globetrotters when we have that coming up as well. But without giving people the choice, kind of them just accepting that that's the way that it was going to be, it was more of a learning curve of just the process. And then everybody has been fine with it so far.
Okay, awesome. Is anybody using FIVO at all? No. Okay, Kelly, you are. Yeah. Who was using Groupmatics previously? Yeah, many people were. Yeah. Sadly, that went the wayside. So FIVO, how is that experience going, Kelly, with you?
Again, it's something we're about to launch this year. We just started a big partnership with the whole country, Broadway Across America market. So we're really, really excited, and I think it'll work great in this environment where people do want to socialize and gather again, because it allows groups to grow their groups socially. It just kind of makes sense right now. Yeah, we're pretty pumped about it, but TBD.
That's awesome. Well, and they've also added, because one of the big differences was it was more a social tool, whereas Groupmatics was a group tool. FIVO has added some changes. So they now have fundraising. You can add upsells, so merchandise. You can add all sorts of things on. So it's certainly worth looking at, because for groups that maybe have lost that, the communication conduit, or that person who was willing to collect money, because there have been changes in much of the corporate world or in groups. That is a good way to keep your group together, because you can have it pulled from a hold, you can set it up to do fundraising. So that is a great tool. So if anybody is interested in finding out more, check out FIVO. I will just put it in the chat.
The one thing that I noticed about FIVO, though, our athletics department uses it because they use Arctics. On the event side, we use Host, and they do, like, Host is not compatible. So that was the problem with us, is our athletics department was like, yeah, you can piggyback on our account, like, no problem. But because we're on Host or Classic or whatever you want to call it with Ticketmaster, it doesn't allow us. So,
and that is a good point. It is fully integratable with Paciolan. With TM, it does need to be, you need to be Artix as well, sadly. So, what other, Kelly, able to capture contacts? Yes, that's true for the entire group, including all the group members, so that you can market to those people later. That is a huge benefit to that as well. Yeah. Who else has questions? We've got 3 more minutes. Anybody else have any questions? What else is keeping you up at night? What are your challenges? What are your positives? What are the things you're seeing?
While you're mulling that, could Ginger and Debbie come off onto the cameras for 1 second so we can get a quick pic?
Awesome.
Turn the cameras on, by chance? You may humor me. That would be.
Ginger and Debbie, are you able to turn your cameras on for us?
If not, that's okay. Everyone say cheese on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. What is everyone doing to hit their sales? Oh, hey, Gabe. Gabe? I guess Gabe. Was everyone...
Yeah, it's Zach. It's okay.
Oh, Zach.
Yeah, I'm feeling so.
What's everyone doing to hit their sales goals? Like, are you doing anything different this year in terms of your own development or training or regimen, balancing it if it's more virtual than on-site visits? How are you staying fresh and staying energetic about it?
I think many of you are just so new back that they probably have no idea yet.
Not tired yet? Not stressed yet? Fair enough.
Yeah.
I would say that, one of my struggles has been that I'm a department of 1 and I'm doing groups and premium. And so balancing the expectations with promoters and what they want our numbers to be and where to do that focus, because I can't be cloned 4 times. So that's been my biggest struggle being back, is we're really starting to ramp up for the fall and have huge aspirations for numbers and not enough manpower to potentially achieve those. So, and that's something that will get better with time, but it's hard to adjust your mindset when you're used to having a fully loaded, locked and loaded department to hit